We'll insert an image now and learn the different types of images that we have with Paligo. I want to put an image under click on the dashboard. So I'm just going to either click on the dashboard, I'll do a down arrow or just go straight there, whatever you like. Click on the insert menu, click on image, and we have a few different options. The figure image with title is a figure with a title. The second image is an image without a title. It would be called an informal image in terms of the element. It really depends on your company which one you want to use. An inline image we're going to do separately. Side-by-side image, we can play with yourselves later, that essentially allows you to put exactly one image on the left and an image on the right, essentially a table that contains two images. And when you already have an image and you want to make it into a thumbnail, then you can click on that. So you click on the image and do thumbnail. You can try that yourselves as well later. Let's put an image with a title first. So go to figure, image with title, and it's created this structure for us. I could upload another image if I like from here, and I can move it to whatever folder I wish to. I'm going to use an existing image for the time being, and I could search from images, as you can see at the bottom. But I want to just click on this image, a car. So I have a car. I want to change its width. So if we just have a look here for a second, we can see all our elements. We're now going to add an attribute. If I click on this list here, it's always the same list as we have over here. It just allows me to put some attributes onto it, put some extra details. So I want to be on the image data, the last one. Click on attribute. There's a whole bunch of attributes, but you don't need to learn them. You just learn according to the functionality. In this case, I want to change the width. So I'm going to type width, click on width, and go 30%. Now you're not going to see this inside this view. You would see it when you publish or preview to your outputs. Because remember, this is just a visual representation of the XML code behind the scenes. And we have a title, and we could call it figure. And if you want to have some caption text at the bottom, you can leave it there. Or if you wanted to remove it, you'd click on the caption element and click delete. Very simple. Now let's say I want to change this formal figure, this figure, into an informal figure. I don't want the title. So I'm going to edit so I can see all my icons. There's an icon H. What that actually means is it'll toggle. So as soon as I click this inside the image, it's now become, you see, an informal figure. So I can actually, and if I did it again, it would take it back to a title. So it's a good icon to know if you want to flick between having an image with a title and without a title. And I'll save. Sometimes you might want to put inside a paragraph what's called an inline image, like a small icon. So we're going to do that. For example, just next to here, next to the menu, I'm going to go Insert, Image, Inline Image. I'll click on Tutorial Images. I know I've got an icon here. I'll use the filter icon, click, and there it is. It's always going to show whatever image size it really is as a small inline image. And as we can see at the top of the elements, it's got its own special element called Inline Media Object that Paligo knows to put in once you set the inline image. Let's preview that and we can see how this all looks. We'll preview in HTML5. So you can see we have our image that's really 30%. I can click on it, opens up. It's full size if you wanted to. It's a piece of functionality you can turn on and off inside the layout editor. And there is our filter just there, our inline image. Very simple to add our different images. If you go into our help page and look for images or supported image files, you can find here the complete list of image files. You can also import Adobe Illustrator files. So you can have your source vector files of high quality, and Paligo will transform them to whatever's needed, whether it's HTML, which would be some sort of bitmap PNG file, or as a vector-based image for a PDF. You don't need to worry about those conversions. You can also use SVG files so that you can build interactivity in the XML behind the SVG. They're also supported in Paligo. If you come from a system like Word or Google Docs or the hats, you're probably only used to like a few little options, even like we have on our screen here, bold, italics and underline. So for example, I could bold this, bold the word system. I could bold the word view menu. But the disadvantage with that, I have no flexibility. If I just want a regular bold to look different to a menu item, to look different to a name of a bullet, I've got a real problem because I've only got one and I have to manually modify the fonts for them all. What we have in Paligo are what's called inline elements and multiple of them. So we can separate according to subject or reason of why I want to do this. First of all, let's get rid of these two bold options. They're a really useful icon to know. If I went to emphasis and delete, it deletes the whole bit of text. I don't want that to happen. I'm going to undo. I actually just want to delete the emphasis, the inline formatting. This icon here, remove formatting. I'll click on it there and I'll click on it there. So it removed the formatting, but it didn't remove the actual text. So let's say the view menu, I want to make this a certain inline element. So I do Alt Enter or Command Enter on a Mac, and it brings me all the different elements I can use inline. There's one particular that I want to look for, is the set of GUI icons, as you can see them here. GUI button, icon, label, menu, menu item, submenu. Now it's up to you when you use them or why you use them. There's no difference between a GUI menu and GUI label. It's really up to you to be consistent within your team of when you use them. So for example, I want to call this, quite obviously, a GUI menu. And if we look at the structure, it has an extra element on there for the GUI menu. If you're doing a PDF, in the layout editor, you can define how this looks. If you're creating HTML, so you'll have an extra class for the GUI menu defining if it looks red, green, blue, whatever font it could be. Let's just do a quick preview so I can just show you how that looks for those of you who understand HTML5. So here there isn't any font on it just yet. I can go to inspect. For those who don't know HTML, you can ignore this part. But we can see it's got a span class GUI menu. And if I wanted to make it blue, I would do color blue. And it turned blue, as you see. And later on, we'll see how to incorporate that change into your layout. But that's just giving you a quick descriptive example of how this would look. Maybe another element menu for you is, let's say you have some sort of your file name, and you want that to be in a certain type of style on a consistent basis. So we can go Alt Enter, surprisingly enough, file name. So that is another element. You can see by default it has a different type of font, and you can define it yourselves again for PDF and HTML. Now let's get our fingers a little bit dirty with tables, but not too dirty because they're not that hard to do, to be honest. Let's first add some text. Underneath this text, I want to put a table in. So we go to the next line. You should be familiar with this. Insert, table, and insert table. So we first decide if it's a formal table, a bit like images, with a title or without a title. And I'm going to do it without a title, a bit more modern maybe. 2 rows and 2 columns. I want a header row, I don't want a footer row. And if you want to get advanced, you can see some border ideas here and things that you want to change in the structure of the table. The actual look and feel will be done in the layout editor, whether it's CSS for HTML based or in the layout editor itself for PDFs. I click on Insert. There's my table. Now I can either right click inside a cell to get the table settings, or I can go in the table menu and also go edit table settings. And I want the width to be 80% of the full page. Again, doesn't matter if it's PDF or HTML. First column should be 30, second 70. This needs to add up to 100. And if you want to put alignment options, you can do that as well. Apply settings. There's my full table. Let's put some content in the header part. And let's just go through the structure. It's a paragraph, as you see. Inside the TH, the header. TR is the row. T head, table head of the informal table of the section. which is very similar for a paragraph, except we have a paragraph in a TD inside the table row. Very similar idea. Just a comment for you guys, if some of you are familiar with the reuse in conditions or profiling, you're actually able to condition on a table row as well. Okay, just so you know, if you're familiar. If not, forget it or remember it when you're familiar with profiling in the reuse set of videos that we do. Let's add some content. And a note about writing content, it's just the same as writing content in a regular part of a topic, like in a paragraph or whatever it may be. When I come down here, my elements, all the regular things, bullets, images, a code, what you're used to doing, nearly everything can be done inside a table. You can even add accordions in sidebars. There's all sorts of things. You've got a lot of flexibility. You don't need, like in other systems, like a table body 1, table body 2. You just write normally because, again, we're structured. Let's populate the content. We have an author, and an author is the most powerful being on earth. I am sure nobody listening to this video will argue with me on that point. We have a contributor. I haven't decided if that sentence of SMEs love to provide content is tongue-in-cheek or reality. Please decide for yourselves. But it's how simple it is for us to add content. Now, if we right-click, we get this menu again. And we have different options. I'll talk you through them. You can try them yourselves if you like. That's for adding a title, header, or footer. We can move or duplicate content. We can insert columns and delete columns and rows, as you can see. Just make sure you're selecting the place that you need to be. If you make a mistake, you've always got undo, sort, and we're going to merge and split cells. How does merge cells work? So if I click on Shift and click my left mouse button and now drag, I've selected 2 cells. Right click and merge cells. They are that's 1 cell now with the content from both of those cells. Let's split them. So now I've split the cells, but as you can see, the first cell contains the contributor. So maybe think for yourselves for a second, how could I move the contributor text down into the second row? Well, I've got 2 ways. Maybe you can think of more. I'm just going to, because it's just 1 word or in 1 line, maybe it's just simpler to do a Control-C or Command-C, depending if you're a Mac or Windows, and just paste it in. And then I could delete this just by going para delete. I could do that, but for now, I'll just delete this text. Another way would be to use the element menu. I can go to para and I could cut it out. I'd go to this paragraph. I don't need it, so I'm going to go to para and delete. Then I'll go to the last element, which happens to be a TD in this case, insert, and do it that way as well. Was that what you thought of as well? If so, great. And one more thing to show you. If you remember, when we did images, we were able to flick between a formal image with a title and an informal image without a title. The same thing with a table using the same icon. This H icon, so we're now an informal table. If I click it, it became a formal table. Click that again, and back to informal. As a note, which maybe is obvious, if I go from a formal table with a title to an informal table, the title gets removed. So if I were to click it again to go back to a formal table, you'd need to re-enter that title again. It doesn't exist anymore. So go ahead, play with tables, see what magic you can create within the lines of a table.